Of course, we can't forget the the postmodern theorists who question the whole notion of woman as a separate, stable category, and question the value of appropriateness of Western scholars applying their cultural logic to the study of non-Western societies. Did you ever think about this when you applied for a job for school? You might wonder why you have to check a box to tell someone your sex or your race. Well, postmodernist theorists wonder about this too. Why do we want to differentiate between groups of people unless we want to treat them differently? And checking that box that you're male or female very well could produce you being treated different than your counterpart. There's also the sociology of the bedroom. This is generally, these types of conversations are generally blamed on the feminists. And much like gender differences, sexual practices vary across time and place, supporting the notion that sexuality is as much a social construct as gender. This is pushing back against the way that males have constructed sexual behavior over time. So some feminists see sexuality as an expression of the unequal distribution of power between men and women. And they argue that women don't really choose heterosexuality, but have it imposed on them by male-dominated societies. Alfred Kinsey suggested that human sexuality was far more diverse than was commonly assumed. His own studies led him to believe that people were not exclusively heterosexual or homosexual, but could fall along a wide spectrum. Margaret Mead found wide variations in the way that tribes express sexuality, and then the implications to how those tribes express themselves through gender roles. If it was male-dominated, then females would be sexually repressed and silenced because of it. So gender is not as simple as two categories, and sexual identity is way more complex than we've given it credit for over time. Homosexuality, which refers to the social identity of a person who has sexual attraction to and or relations with people of the same sex, is a concept or identity that emerged in the mid-19th century. Michel Foucault talked a lot about this and relates the emergence of the homosexual identity to the development of scientific disciplines and a desire to monitor and categorize people and behavior. Foucault also introduced the notion that self-surveillance is a form of social control. So as science starts to want to understand all kinds of things, that break it into categories, and the concept of homosexuality takes shape. It's not that there weren't people that engaged in this type of behavior, it's just that it was formally constructed as homosexuality in the late 19th century. Studies show that gender inequality is rampant in schools. Boys and girls are treated differently by teachers, and there are different expectations for their behavior and performance. And we see this in textbooks and other materials where they are used to reinforce gender stereotypes. As we've mentioned before, schools are generally one of the first agents of socialization that children experience outside of their immediate families. It may be the first time that children are introduced to thoughts and ideas that contradict those of their families. Therefore, schools are very important agents of socialization, and the messages that students receive in schools can certainly have a big impact on the way children think about themselves. Research shows that in school, teachers tend to favor boys in several ways. Boys receive more attention and instructional time. Sorry, folks. Got a little ahead of myself there. They're more likely to be called on in class. They're posed with more challenging questions or tasks, and they're given more praise for the quality of their work. Well, if this is the case, you have to ask yourself, well, what message does that send to boys? What message does that send to girls? You know, I coach girls soccer. One of the best things I do is I coach the Sharks. And I've been with these little girls since they were 5, and they're 10 now. And over the years, they, especially 3 or 4 of them, who are the more competitive girls, have consistently asked me, are girls better, or are boys better than girls? Because the boys tell them that they are better than the girls on the playground. Even if the girls are more skilled than the boys will cheat to beat them, and this is something that they concern themselves with. And my response to them is, heck no. Boys aren't better than girls. You should be able to compete with these boys anytime you want. And don't ever let anybody convince you otherwise. It's the way that we treat them that will dictate who they become over time. If we encourage them to take challenges that they would not have normally taken, then they will be the better for it. At least that's what I do. So I believe in making strong little girls who will turn into strong women, because I believe the world needs more strong women. Gender in the workplace, of course, there is a gender gap. Women still face many challenges in the working world, including unequal pay, sexual harassment, sexism, tracking to certain kinds of jobs, the feminization of jobs, the glass ceiling, and more. The income gap is getting narrower, but it is still not equal. It is crucial to understand that what this means is that for a man and a woman who are equally qualified, same education, same skills, same experience, the woman is likely to be paid almost 25% less than a man applying for the same position. Although 23 cents on the dollar may not seem a lot of money, if you're looking at annual salaries, it is huge. A man would be making $50,000 doing the same job as a woman getting $38,500. And when women do obtain positions, they are typically dominated by men. They face enormous pressures. There's a sense that all women will be judged based on their performance, and they are often caught in a catch-22 with regard to their behavior. If they act just like a man, they are seen as unfeminine and somehow unattractive. And if they exhibit more feminine qualities, they are seen as not tough enough. Men working in female-dominated fields don't seem to face the same scrutiny and challenges. In fact, study shows that such men advance more quickly than their female counterparts. Take, for example, nursing. If a man becomes a nurse, he will automatically, or he will almost automatically make more than the female counterparts doing the same job, and he'll most likely advance into positions of management quicker than a female. Same with education. If a male goes into public education, especially K through 8, they're more likely to be paid higher wage than the females doing the same job, and they're more likely to advance to positions like principals quicker than females would as well. Talk about injustice, folks. We can go on forever about gender. I taught, like I said, one of the classes I teach here at Front Range Community College, I teach it online as well, is the Sociology of Gender. If you want to get more into this, certainly check that class out. And I'm going to post some videos over the course of the week as well.